Hi, I'm Emily. I guess I've always believed that kindness, no matter how small, can change everything. Growing up, my grandmother used to tell me that a simple smile or a kind word could brighten someone's entire day. I remember one winter morning when I was feeling down, and she handed me a cup of hot tea with a gentle smile, saying, "Sometimes, all someone needs is to know they're loved." That moment stuck with me. It made me realize how powerful small gestures can be, how they can leave a lasting mark on someone's heart. Those lessons shape the way I see the world today, and they're what motivated me to take action now. My dream has always been to bring my family closer, to remind us of the bond that holds us together, even when life gets busy and distant. So I decided to organize a special gathering, a weekend where we could forget the chaos of everyday life and reconnect on a deeper level. I poured my heart into planning it, picking a cozy cabin by the lake, trying to create an environment filled with warmth, laughter, and love. I spent countless evenings imagining the conversations we'd have, the stories we'd share, and the new memories we'd create. It felt like a small act of hope, a chance to rebuild and strengthen what time and distance might have frayed. I was genuinely excited about it. Every detail, from the playlist I curated to the homemade meals I was preparing, was a reflection of how much I cared. I envisioned us sitting around a crackling fire, sharing our dreams and regrets, realizing how much we'd missed each other. I believed that this effort could bring us closer, that somehow this simple act could help heal old wounds and create new bonds. Yet, even as I planned, I noticed some family members seemed less enthusiastic. My brother, for example, didn't seem convinced, and my aunt was hesitant to commit. Still, I held on to hope, convinced that love and patience could turn their hearts around. And so, I'm inviting you to stay with me through this story. If you've ever felt the ache of wanting to bring people together, if you've ever believed in the power of love and small gestures, please leave a like, subscribe to follow along, and join me on this emotional ride. I promise it's a journey worth sharing, and I can't wait to see where it takes us. At first, I thought everything was falling into place. I could feel the warmth of anticipation in my chest, imagining us all together, sharing stories and memories, finally bridging the gaps that had grown over the years. I spent days planning little touches, bringing my grandmother's favorite blanket, writing heartfelt notes, trying to create a space where everyone would feel safe and loved. I believed that if I could just get us all in the same room, maybe we could start to heal some of those old wounds. I was so full of hope, so determined to make this work. But as the days passed, something started to shift. I noticed the subtle signs, those quiet, almost imperceptible things that cut deeper than words. Family members would exchange glances when I suggested something for the gathering, their eyes flickering with a mix of disapproval and impatience. Sometimes they changed the subject abruptly, as if my ideas were an irritation rather than a contribution. I'd catch my brother rolling his eyes when I mentioned my plan to set up a photo album of Grandpa's stories, and my aunt would offer a tight smile, her voice tinged with sarcasm when I mentioned how much effort I was putting into everything. It was as if my presence was an intrusion on their carefully curated plans, a reminder of how little they truly valued my intentions. There was a coldness in the way they excluded me from decisions. They'd talk quietly among themselves, plotting without me, little jokes and whispers that I wasn't meant to hear. I'd hear my name in passing, often accompanied by a sigh or a dismissive chuckle, and suddenly I felt invisible, like I wasn't even part of the family anymore. It hurt more than I expected. I'd try to brush it off, telling myself maybe they were just stressed or tired, but deep down I knew this was more than that. It was a wall building itself, brick by brick, between us. And then came the quiet, piercing doubts. Why was I bothering? Why did my efforts seem so pointless? I kept asking myself if I had misunderstood everything, if I was simply trying to force a closeness that wasn't actually there. Was I naive to think I could change anything? I'd see the indifference in their eyes, feel the growing distance in the air, and wonder if I'd made a mistake trusting that love and sincerity could fix what time and silence had broken. I tried to hold on to hope, but it was slipping away, leaving behind a bitter taste of disappointment. I felt a strange mixture of anger, sadness, and betrayal bubbling inside me. I wanted to confront them, to ask why they were shutting me out, why my voice seemed so unwelcome. But I held back, afraid that if I did, I'd break something even more fragile. So instead, I sat quietly, feeling more alone with each passing day, knowing that soon, the silence might become too loud to bear. I never thought I'd be the one to find out this way, but that's exactly what happened. It was a quiet moment, a brief lapse in the chaos of packing and last-minute arrangements. I was rummaging through my phone, trying to find a picture to send to my sister when I saw the message. It was from my brother-in-law, a simple note, but the words hit me like a punch to the stomach. "We're leaving early tomorrow, can't wait to hit the lake without her," it read, as if I wasn't even there, as if I wasn't part of the family at all. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, my mind trying to deny what I was seeing. Maybe it was a joke, a miscommunication. Maybe I was reading it wrong. But I knew better. I knew the tone, the coldness behind those words. They had planned this without me. They had decided I wasn't worth mentioning, that my presence was an afterthought, something to be left behind. A cold sweat broke out on my brow and I felt my heart constrict painfully. My stomach twisted and sank like I'd been punched from the inside. How could they do this? How could they exclude me so completely? I had been trying to hold on to hope, trying to believe that maybe, just maybe, this family could come back together, that the love I thought I shared with them was real enough to survive everything. But this was different. This was betrayal. It wasn't just a misunderstanding or a disagreement. It was a deliberate act of rejection, a silent but unmistakable message that I didn't belong. I blinked rapidly, tears threatening to spill over, but I fought them back. My hands clenched into fists as I backed away, retreating into the shadows of the room. I didn't want to confront or yell or cry in front of anyone. I just needed to be alone with this pain, to let it sink in. I felt a numbness spreading through me because what else was there left to feel? Hope, once a flickering flame, had been snuffed out. I had believed in family and connection and love that could endure even the hardest storms. But now I saw the truth laid bare. They had been planning this, quietly plotting their escape, leaving me behind like I was nothing. The weight of that realization crushed me, making my chest feel tight and heavy. It was as if the ground had shifted beneath my feet, leaving me stranded in a sea of disappointment and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to shout, to demand an explanation, but I couldn't. Instead, I sank down onto the floor, trembling, tears finally spilling over and sliding down my cheeks. I felt utterly betrayed, the kind of hurt that no words could ever truly capture. In that moment, all the hope I had clung to evaporated, replaced by an overwhelming sense of disillusionment that left me shattered inside. For the first time since I found out about the plan to leave without me, I take a moment to breathe. Deep, steady breaths. The kind that quiet the chaos inside and anchor me to what's real. I feel the weight of everything pressing down, disappointment, anger, a hollow ache that seems to seep into my bones, but beneath it all, there's something else. A flicker of clarity. A tiny voice that whispers, no more. This isn't about begging for their approval or pleading to be seen. It's about reclaiming what's mine quietly, with strength I never knew I possessed. I close my eyes for a second and let the silence settle. It's in this stillness that I start to see the outline of a plan forming. I won't wait for permission anymore. I won't chase after their validation or drown in the hope that they'll suddenly understand. Instead, I decide that I will protect my dignity. I will choose myself over their indifference. I may feel shattered now, but I'm not broken. Not yet. There's a calm resolve blooming within, a certainty that I can navigate this storm without losing myself. In this moment of clarity, I begin to think of the steps I need to take. I'll start by preparing to remove myself from this toxic environment, quietly and with grace. I'll look into my finances, make arrangements to stand on my own 2 feet if I have to. I'll cancel the trip if they think I'll sit around waiting, they're mistaken. I'll find my own way out of this, not with anger but with quiet dignity, with the kind of strength that whispers rather than shouts. I realize that I don't need their approval to decide what's best for me. My future isn't dictated by their absence or their cold indifference. Each small decision feels like a brick laid in my foundation of self-respect. I start to see the power in choosing myself and stepping away from the chaos without fanfare, without apologies. This isn't about revenge, it's about preservation. About asserting that I am enough, even if they refuse to see it. I can feel the tide turning inside me, a gentle but unstoppable force pushing me forward. I know that the next steps won't be easy, but that's no longer my concern. I am learning to stand on my own, silently, fiercely, ready to face whatever comes next. There's a quiet anticipation now, a sense that something big is brewing beneath the surface. Not in anger or desperation, but in calm, unwavering resolve. I am no longer waiting for their acceptance. I am creating my own path, and this time, I will walk it with dignity and strength. Whatever comes, I won't be the same person who walked in here vulnerable and broken. I am shaping myself into someone who chooses her own peace, her own future. And that realization, that quiet power, feels like the beginning of everything I've been searching for. I knew I couldn't stay still, not after everything I felt, those whispers of betrayal, the coldness of their indifference. So quietly, I began to act. First, I canceled the trip I had painstakingly planned and paid for, not out of anger, but with a calm resolve that surprised even me. I didn't announce it or make a scene. I simply took the necessary steps, removing my name from the reservations, ensuring my absence was a certainty. It was a small act, but one that felt like reclaiming a piece of myself, a silent statement that I was no longer theirs to control. Next, I started to gather what I would need, my important documents, the ones that represented my independence. I tucked my divorce papers into a safe folder, along with my bank statements and personal identification, everything I'd need to take the next step when the time came. There was no rush, only a steady, deliberate collection of my essentials. I moved through my space with quiet purpose, each movement precise, as if orchestrating my own liberation in the shadows. I separated my belongings from theirs, stacking my clothes and books into a small bag, making sure nothing was left behind that could tie me back to that suffocating environment. The atmosphere in the house remained unchanged, the family oblivious to the shifts happening around them. They laughed loudly, unaware that their laughter was just noise masking the subtle unraveling of the life I used to cling to. I watched from the sidelines, feeling a strange sense of peace. This wasn't about confrontation or drama, it was about the silent strength of knowing I was taking control without their permission. Each step I took reinforced my sense of calm, a quiet power building inside me as I prepared to walk away. As I packed, I felt a wave of relief washing over me. No tears, no anger, just a quiet certainty that I was finally making decisions for myself. My heart was steady, focused on what lay ahead, not on what I was leaving behind. I kept my composure intact, knowing that the real change was happening within, and that these small, unseen acts would ripple outward, shaping a future built on my own terms. Every action was a deliberate act of self-respect, a silent affirmation that my life belonged to me now. I was choosing myself, quietly but undeniably, and with each passing moment, I felt more anchored in that truth. I took a deep breath and let the quiet certainty settle inside me. There was no need for shouting, no desire to make a scene. Instead, I moved with deliberate calm, knowing that every small action was a step toward reclaiming my life. First, I quietly canceled the trip I had planned and paid for, my hand steady as I sent the message. It felt strange, almost surreal, to undo something I'd been so excited about, but I knew this was necessary. It was a tangible sign that I was no longer letting others dictate my choices. Next, I gathered my most important documents, my passport, my personal bank statements, the divorce papers I'd been meaning to finalize. I slipped them into a discreet bag, feeling a strange sense of liberation with each item I set aside. These were my anchors, pieces of a future I was starting to shape for myself. I carefully separated my belongings from theirs, folding my clothes quietly, placing my possessions in a small bag I kept ready by the door. Every movement was precise, controlled, almost detached, as if I were removing layers of doubt from my own skin. The house around me was filled with the muffled sounds of family laughter and chatter, but I was unaffected by it. Their voices blended into background noise, unaware of the silent revolution occurring just beneath the surface. I watched myself act, calm and steady, like a river flowing quietly around rocks, carving a new path without force or drama. My heart was steady, not because I was unfeeling, but because I was focused. This was the moment I claimed my space, my right to choose how I would live. As I packed, I felt an unexpected surge of relief. It was as if I'd been holding my breath for so long that now I could finally exhale. With each item I tucked away, I felt a little lighter, more in control. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I also knew that I was building a foundation of strength that no one could tear down. There was no anger in this quiet act, only clarity and purpose. I was laying the groundwork for a new chapter, one where I would no longer be invisible or silenced. The house remained unaware of the shift happening within its walls, but I could feel it, an invisible shift of my own making. I moved through the space with purpose, every step reinforcing the silent promise I had made to myself, to prioritize my well-being, to honor my voice, even if no one else saw it yet. This was the beginning of my emancipation, not with loud declarations or confrontations, but with a steady, unwavering resolve. I was reclaiming my independence, piece by piece, in silence, and that silence was becoming my greatest strength. I could feel the weight of their desperation hanging in the air, like a faint echo of the past trying to claw its way back into my life. They apologized, some shallow, some trembling, each one attempting to smooth over the cracks they created, but their words fell flat against the calm certainty I now carried. It wasn't anger I felt, it was clarity. I saw through their little acts, the guilt trips disguised as remorse, the desperate pleas to undo what had already been broken. They wanted to rewrite history, to pretend that everything was still the same, that I could just slide back into the role I'd abandoned. But I no longer carried the weight of their manipulations. Their apologies sounded hollow, like echoes bouncing off a wall, meaningless in the face of what they'd done. They tried to make me feel responsible, to guilt me into believing I still held some power over the situation. But I knew better now. I saw their tactics for what they were, attempts to shift the blame, to make me doubt my own decisions, to make me feel small again. Yet, I felt no spark of guilt, no flicker of weakness. My resolve was stronger than ever. I had carved this space for myself, and I wasn't going to let their words or their shame undo it. They begged, some with tears, others with hurried words that sounded more like desperate bargaining than genuine remorse. I maintained my silence. Not out of stubbornness, but because I knew that my voice, my true voice, was enough. I didn't need to argue or justify. Their pleas were a testament to their realization that they no longer held power over me. For the first time, I was in control. Their attempts to manipulate me into going back to the way things were only confirmed my decision. I would not return. I would not be pulled back into the toxicity, the guilt, or the false sense of familiarity they so desperately clung to. Standing there, I felt an overwhelming sense of liberation, a deep breath of relief that I had finally claimed my space. I was no longer the person they could sway with guilt or tears. I was someone who had seen through the illusion of control they thought they still had. Their voices faded into the background of my mind like distant echoes I no longer needed to hear. I looked at them, not with contempt, but with a calm, unwavering certainty. I had severed the ties that bound me to their manipulation, and in doing so I had found myself. There was no regret, no longing for what could have been. Only a quiet, resolute acknowledgement that I was walking away from the shadows of their influence, into a future I was finally shaping for myself. Their pleas, their apologies, they were just noise now. I had closed that chapter. My strength was my own, built on the foundation of self-respect and clear boundaries. I had learned that I didn't need their validation or their apologies. I had everything I needed within me. And as I turned away, I knew I was finally free. Now that I've made my choice to stand firm and walk away from those who tried to control and manipulate me, I feel a weight lifting from my shoulders. It's as if I've finally stepped out of a fog and everything around me feels clearer, lighter, more real. I've begun to rebuild my life, not according to anyone else's expectations, but in a way that truly belongs to me. My days are no longer dictated by guilt or the silent pressure of unspoken rules. Instead, I wake up with a quiet sense of possibility, eager to fill my hours with things that bring me genuine joy. I've started creating a daily routine that centers on myself. It's simple but meaningful, waking up early enough to enjoy the quiet of the morning, tending to my little garden, watering the plants I've grown to love. I find comfort in tending to my space, organizing my home with care, giving each corner a little bit of my attention. There's a sense of pride in making my surroundings peaceful and beautiful, not for anyone else but for me. I take time to prepare my meals, experimenting with flavors I never used to bother with before, savoring the process of nourishing my body with kindness. Taking care of my mind and soul has become just as vital. I dedicate moments to quiet reflection, to listening to music that resonates with my newfound sense of freedom. Sometimes I read, other times I just sit and breathe deeply, appreciating the stillness I once ignored. I realize that my happiness no longer depends on external validation or the approval I used to chase. I feel a quiet, steady strength growing inside me, one that reminds me I can trust myself and my choices. Every small victory feels like a celebration. I organize my space, I make plans for the days ahead. I say yes to things that I genuinely want and no to those that don't serve me anymore. It's incredible how liberating it is to decide for myself without guilt or hesitation. I no longer seek permission, my life is mine, and I own it fully. This sense of autonomy, of dignity reclaimed, fills me with a peaceful pride I never knew I could feel. I am learning to enjoy my own company, to find comfort in my own thoughts, and to appreciate the quiet strength I carry now. There's a profound sense of hope in this new chapter, not because everything is perfect, but because I am. I've learned that happiness isn't about grand gestures or external validation. It's found in these small, honest moments of self-care and self-respect. I no longer look back with longing or regret. Instead, I feel gratitude for having finally freed myself from the chains of other people's expectations and for discovering that I am capable of building a life rooted in my own truth. Every day, I remind myself that I am enough, that I am deserving of peace, and that my future is mine to shape. And with that thought, I step forward into this new life, full of quiet hope and a deep sense of pride in who I am becoming. Since I finally let go of what was holding me back, I've begun to see my life in a whole new light. It's as if I've stepped into a space where I can breathe freely and truly explore who I am beyond the shadows of my past. I've discovered new passions, things I never thought to pursue before, simply because I was so focused on survival. I've taken up painting, not because I want to be perfect at it, but because putting colors on a canvas feels like giving myself permission to express what words sometimes can't. I've found joy in the small act of mixing shades, watching them come alive under my brush and realizing that my creativity is a gift I can nurture without fear or hesitation. And then there are the people I've begun to reconnect with, those who inspire me with their kindness and authenticity. Some are old friends I'd lost touch with, others are new acquaintances who remind me that genuine connection still exists. I no longer seek out relationships out of need or out of a desire to fill a void. Instead, I welcome those who respect my space, who listen without judgment, and who celebrate my growth without trying to control it. These relationships feel different, more honest, more nurturing, and they remind me that I am capable of forming bonds rooted in mutual respect and kindness. Everyday moments now carry a quiet, simple joy. I wake up and look forward to my morning coffee, savoring the warmth and the quiet before the day begins. I take walks in the park, appreciating the way the sunlight filters through the leaves, the sound of birds singing, the gentle breeze that brushes against my skin. These small experiences, once overlooked, now fill me with a sense of gratitude. It's as if I've rediscovered the beauty in ordinary things I used to rush past or dismiss. These moments remind me that happiness doesn't have to be grand or complicated. It can be found in the stillness, the simple presence of being alive. I've also started to dream bigger, not in a reckless way, but with a newfound confidence that I can shape my own future. I no longer see myself as someone who just survived. I see myself as someone who is capable of creating a life that's meaningful and fulfilling. I'm exploring new career ideas, considering ways to turn my passions into something more tangible, perhaps teaching, writing, or even starting a small project that reflects what I care about most. The possibilities feel open and inviting, not intimidating. I know now that I am the author of my story and that I can choose to craft it with intention and hope. Most importantly, I see myself as whole, no longer defined by what was lost or what I had to endure. I am not a victim of my past, but a person who has learned to listen to her own voice, who embraces her strengths and her vulnerabilities alike. I walk forward with a gentle confidence, eager to see what comes next. Every day is a new chance to build, to learn, to love, and to simply be myself. And that, more than anything, fills me with a quiet, persistent optimism, because I finally understand that I am enough, just as I am. Looking back now, I see the woman I used to be, so uncertain, so silent in her own way, afraid to speak her truth because of the fear of judgment or rejection. I remember the moments when I silenced myself, when I let others' expectations drown out my own voice. Those times were heavy, filled with doubt and resignation, but they taught me something invaluable, that true strength comes from within, from daring to be authentic even when it's uncomfortable. The challenges I faced, the doubts I battled, and the fears I had to confront were not obstacles meant to break me. They were lessons that shaped me into the person I am today. It took courage to step out of that shadow, to speak up when the world told me not to, and I am grateful for every moment that pushed me to grow. There's no resentment in my heart anymore, only gratitude. Gratitude for the pain that made me stronger, for the silence that made me find my voice, and for the people who tried to silence me but inadvertently helped me realize my own power. I've learned that life is not about avoiding discomfort or pain, but about embracing it as part of our transformation. Each challenge has become a stepping stone, leading me toward a deeper understanding of myself and the world around me. I feel a profound sense of peace now, knowing that I am exactly who I am supposed to be. I am enough just as I am. And in that acceptance, I find a kind of freedom I never knew existed. Looking ahead, I am filled with hope and excitement. My heart is open, ready to receive new experiences, to love more deeply, to create without fear, and to continue sharing my voice with authenticity and kindness. I know that my story is far from over. There are still dreams I hold close, ideas I want to bring to life, relationships I want to nurture, moments of joy I haven't even imagined yet. Every day is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to give back. I believe that my voice, once silenced by doubt, now has the power to inspire others to find theirs. I am committed to walking this path with an open heart, embracing the unknown with curiosity and gratitude, knowing that the best is yet to come. And so I invite you to do the same. If my story has touched something in you, please leave a like. Your support means the world to me. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more stories about courage, growth, and hope. And if you feel moved to do so, consider supporting this journey through the Super Thanks feature. Your kindness helps me keep sharing words that matter. Remember, your voice is unique and powerful, and your story is still being written. No matter where you are in your own path, know that you are enough, that your presence matters, and that the future holds endless possibilities. Keep shining, keep speaking, and never forget the strength that resides within you. The best chapters are yet to come, and I am grateful to share this moment with you.